Hello, my dear students. I, Hina Kausar, welcome you for my today's session. We are learning the paper, The Social Construction of Childhood. From this paper, we are going to start today the third unit, and from that, we are going to learn the first topic of the third unit, Exposure to Violence through Stages of Childhood. This is what the third unit, Childhood and Violence, Exposure to Violence through Stages of Childhood, Impact of Violence in Children, Strategies for Prevention of Violence in Childhood, Essential Public Action to Prevent Childhood Violence. So let's begin the point 1, Introduction. The problem of childhood and violence is profoundly embedded in our olden times. It is an olden civilization in itself. Parental factor, abuse history of parents, mental health problem, domestic violence, tradition and cultural practices, illiteracy and ignorance, and poor economy have contributed to this menace in the society. Childhood violence affects the overall improvement of the child, whether it is done physically, emotionally, sexually, and socially. Childhood in India is not homogeneous. Many childhood coexist in India. The degree of vulnerability of Indian children is determined by social status, economic status, physical or mental ability. Thus, all children face some violation because of their status as a child in India. Child abuse is existing in society from centuries. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, which have become part and parcel of the different forms of maltreatment to children. Child sexual abuse has been highlighted more distasteful form of child victimization. Child sexual abuse form of abuse which was once a hidden type of abuse. It is complicated form of abuse where its layers of shame and guilt. Millions of children have been deprived of their rights every year due to poverty, inequality, discrimination. All races, ethnicities and socioeconomic groups are affected by childhood violence. Here I have presented one image in front of you students where from there I am trying to clear the concept in your mind that exposure to violence through stages of childhood, what stages we are having in our childhood. From there we have to see that what type of violences children face from 0 to 18 years of age. Violence is any behavior or act that is intentionally to take possession, threaten, intimidate, or cause injury to another. It is an abuse of power that the person being close to the victim and dependence of the victim to make the victim defenseless. Violence may vary from physical, mental, sexual, emotional. Childhood violence is any activity, conduct and gesture by an adult. Child abuse is any activity, behavior and gestures by someone who is grown up. It tends to be physical, sexual and emotional. Childhood violence is related to physical force and injury to a child. The amount of force and injury to a child is the characteristic that distinguishes childhood violence from general discipline. Violence against and around children is a critical concern that affects their overall development, well-being and future behavior. Children may be exposed to violence in various forms, physical, emotional, sexual or symbolic, across different stages of childhood, early, middle and adolescence. Exposure can occur directly as victims or indirectly as witnesses, and its impact varies depending on the child's age, environment, and socio-cultural background. As again from this image, let's understand early childhood 0 to 5 years. Nature of exposure. Domestic violence is the home environment between for example, between parents. Physical abuse, neglect or emotional abuse. These are the institutional violence in orphanage or unregulated childcare centers. It give impact on children in the form like developmental delays like speech, cognition, emotional regulation, attachment disorders and trust issues, impaired brain development due to chronic stress. Theoretical insights, if you want to go and learn more about this stage, then we can follow the according to attachment theory by Bowlby. Early childhood exposure to violence disrupt the formation of secure attachments, leading to long-term emotional and relational issues. I hope you have understood the slide. Let's go to the next slide, that middle childhood, that is 6 years to 12 years. Nature of exposure, bullying and peer violence in schools, corporal punishment by teachers or caregivers, media violence, TV shows, video games, community violence in low income or conflict ridden areas. Impact, increased aggression or withdrawal, poor academic performance and behavioral problems, desensitization to violence and normalization of aggression. Sociological perspective will see. Social learning theory by Bandura. Children imitate violent behavior modeled by adult or media figures, especially when such actions are rewarded or go unpunished. Third, adolescence, 13 to 18 years, nature of exposure, gang violence, street crime, substance abuse, environment, dating violence or sexual exploitation, cyberbullying and online harassment, political or caste religious violence in conflict zones. Impact, higher risk of depression, anxiety, PTSD or suicidal tendencies. Involvement in delinquency or risky behaviors. Disruption in identity formation and peer relationships. Relevant framework, ecological system theory, Bronfenbrenner shows how violence at multiple levels, family, school, community, influences adolescence development. Fourth, gender dimensions of exposure. Girls may face higher risk of sexual violence and domestic abuse. Boys may be more likely to be recruited into violent peer groups or gangs. Gender norms and stereotypes often influence how violence is experienced, reported, or responded to. Fifth, long-term effect. Exposure to violence in any stage of childhood can have intergenerational effect. Abused children may grow up to become abusive adults. Psychological trauma, lifelong issue like low self-esteem, addiction or unstable relationships. Next, social consequences, higher likelihood of school dropout, unemployment and criminal behavior. Sixth, protection and intervention. Legal framework like the POCSO Act India, UNCRC, that is United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child, child welfare institutions and school-based programs, parental education, mental health support and safe media practices, and early identification and intervention can significantly reduce the negative outcome of exposure to violence. So, this is all about the different exposure the children face throughout their stages of life from 0 to 18 years of age. Different children face different types of abuses, so that we have to understand it's not necessary that the violence being faced by the child after 10 years or 12 years. It starts from the very early age. Maybe they are the victim or the witness. Maybe they have observed, experience, or maybe they have personally felt. So this is all about the exposure. Thank you so much for the today's attendance. I hope you have learned from my video. See you in the next class. Till then, take care. Bye.